Okay, here's the deal. I've been talking about networking for the past few episodes because it is such a big topic, and breaking it down into actionable steps is really going to help you to be more successful in your networking efforts. So, today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to follow up because I get this question a lot. Once I establish a connection with somebody, how do I start to build the relationship? And in my opinion, the goal of that first meeting is to get to the second meeting and build a relationship. So first and foremost, you need to understand, why are you networking? If you're networking in a job search, there may be more urgency to follow up. If you're networking for exploration, there may be less urgency. If you're networking because you're making it a habit of everyday life, which is awesome, then things are going to vary. And the reason I say this is because your strategy for outreach will depend on your goal and the reason you're networking. There's not a one size fits all in terms of how many times or how many days should go by. So you really need to think about that. The other thing you need to think about is that not everybody in your network, people that you meet, will be people that make sense to follow up with. Most will, but there's going to be some people who maybe you don't connect with, or you don't really seem to have a match, and that's okay. So really thinking through your goals and your strategy is going to be helpful with outreach. Okay, so once you have your goals and your strategy, what you want to think about is you're asking them for something in that first meeting. You're asking them for their time for the most part, maybe their advice or information, maybe even an introduction. So you want to be clear with how you're using your follow-up. You don't want it to be another ask if you can avoid it. So obviously the first follow-up will be a thank you. And the second follow-up is typically giving them some information about how the advice, information, or connection that they gave you was helpful to your goals. So if they introduced you to somebody else, and maybe you say, hey, it was really great to meet so-and-so. This is what I got out of the meeting. Very brief follow-up. So that's one of the things that I think can be pretty standard in a follow-up situation in networking. Something else that you can do that's relatively easy is determine where they are on social media. Make sure you're connected with them. LinkedIn is usually the primary place, but some professions use other things like YouTube or Twitter or TikTok. So see where they are, follow them or connect with them, and then engage with their work, engage with what they're putting out there online. And that can be in terms of liking their material, sharing their material, or commenting, making interesting comments on their material. This is another easy way to kind of pop up in their world and maybe even help them, because if you're promoting the things they're doing, they may get more followers or more business depending on what that situation is. Something else you can do if you're in a job search is you can keep them posted on your progress. They don't need to know everything you're doing, but they may, they may appreciate an update 2 months in that, hey, just want to let you know, I've had a couple of interviews with the company that we talked about. Things seem to be moving forward, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that I appreciate what you did. So again, just really a touch base, not asking them to do anything, not really even expecting a reply, but being courteous about following up, because if they've invested time in you, then chances are they'd be interested in what's happening. Obviously, if you land, then you definitely want to follow up with all of the people who helped you, even if they didn't help you with that specific opportunity, because they helped you in the entire process. And that's a really, really key thing. So don't forget, once you land, to thank the individuals and make sure you continue to stay in touch with them. I will say one thing I am not a fan of is the advice to send somebody an article that they might be interested in. I know I've heard this from multiple places, and I think it's a little outdated, but we all get so much information that you're basically asking somebody to do work for you, to read through this and respond. And I know you're not really asking them, you're thinking this might be helpful, but in essence, they may look at it, well, it's kind of rude to reply if I don't kind of read this and have a comment about it. So unless you know the person really well and that they really would enjoy this article, which is rare if you're just meeting somebody new, or unless you're willing to summarize 2 or 3 key points and say, the reason I thought you might be interested are these 2 or 3 key points. I know you might not have time to read it, but I just wanted to highlight this. That might be another way that you can use that tip. But I also think it's good to track in some way, whether you like Excel, whether you like a journal, the people you meet, the information they give you. Sometimes they give you personal details. They're teenagers getting ready for college, or they just bought a new border collie, or things like that, because it really does help build a relationship when you do reach out to ping them to say, hey, how's the training going with the new border collie? Because people love it when you remember details. So however you track that information, make sure you do track it so that you can continue to build the relationship and invest in the people who are investing in you. And I think you'll find that some of these follow-up techniques are things that you can do right into your own schedule. They're not going to take a lot of time, but they will have a lot of benefit.